The Buffalo Bills made a pair of roster moves on Tuesday afternoon that may not have generated major headlines, but they could carry important implications for the depth of a team already dealing with a wave of injuries through the first 5 weeks of the season. Buffalo announced the return of two familiar faces to its practice squad, linebacker Baylon Spector and cornerback Jalen Kimber. In order to make room, the team released safety/linebacker hybrid Otis Reese IV, ending his brief stint with the franchise. The Bills' practice squad has already been a revolving door this season, with injuries forcing the front office to shuffle pieces around more often than they would prefer. The return of Spector, who was originally a 7th-round pick by the team in the 2022 NFL Draft, adds immediate familiarity and experience at linebacker. Spector has appeared in 13 games across 3 seasons for Buffalo, registering 34 tackles along the way. His career to this point has been marred by injuries, limiting his availability and stunting his development. Still, at 26 years old, he remains a player with upside, and the organization clearly values his knowledge of the system and his work ethic enough to bring him back for another opportunity. Kimber's story has been more of a journey. The 24-year-old cornerback out of Penn State went undrafted in 2025 before being picked up by the Tennessee Titans. His time in Nashville was short-lived, as the Titans released him late in August during final roster cuts. Buffalo quickly scooped him up, adding him to its practice squad earlier this fall. However, his initial stay was brief. Kimber was waived on September 23 as the Bills made space for Reese IV. Now, just a couple of weeks later, Kimber is back, once again filling a position of need for a team that has seen its cornerback depth evaporate due to injuries. Standing 6 feet tall and weighing 190 pounds, Kimber brings physicality and length to the position, even if he remains a developmental player at this stage of his career. The timing of these moves is no coincidence. Buffalo has been dealing with a string of injuries at both linebacker and cornerback, 2 positions critical to Sean McDermott's defensive scheme. Veteran linebacker Matt Milano, one of the most important players on the roster, suffered a pectoral injury earlier in the season and has struggled to return to full strength. His re-aggravation of that injury in Sunday night's loss to the New England Patriots has put his status for Week 6 in serious doubt. Meanwhile, second-year linebacker Dorian Williams has also missed time with a knee injury, leaving the Bills dangerously thin at a position where depth and rotation are vital. The secondary has not fared much better. Both rookie cornerbacks Dorian Strong, neck, and Maxwell Hairston, knee, are currently on injured reserve, robbing Buffalo of 2 young pieces they had hoped would contribute this season. Neither player is expected back in the near future, leaving the cornerback room depleted. That has forced the team to rely more heavily on veterans such as Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, as well as nickel corner Taron Johnson. While those players have held their own, the lack of depth has been glaring whenever the Bills face spread offenses capable of attacking multiple defensive backs at once. Adding Kimber back into the mix may not provide an immediate solution, but it at least gives the Bills another body to develop and lean on if attrition continues to mount. Dane Jackson, the veteran cornerback who has bounced between the active roster and practice squad in recent seasons, remains the most likely candidate to be elevated in the event of another injury. Kimber, however, offers developmental upside, and the team's decision to bring him back suggests they see potential in him that is worth cultivating. As for Spector, his path back to the active roster could be clearer. With Milano's status highly questionable and Williams' knee still limiting him, Spector might find himself suiting up on game day as early as Week 6 against the Atlanta Falcons. His familiarity with McDermott's defensive calls and his ability to contribute on special teams could give him the edge when the coaching staff decides who gets a jersey on Sunday. The Bills have traditionally valued versatility and reliability from their depth linebackers, and Spector, if healthy, fits that mold. These moves also highlight a broader trend for the Bills in 2025: survival. Injuries have piled up in frustrating fashion, particularly on defense, forcing Buffalo to rely on roster creativity and next-man-up mentality to stay competitive. It is not unusual for playoff-caliber teams to experience attrition over the course of a long NFL season, but the Bills have been hit particularly hard at positions that require cohesion and communication. Linebacker and cornerback are the backbone of McDermott's scheme, and when players are constantly shuffling in and out, the margin for error becomes razor thin. The decision to release Reece 4 is another layer to this story. The versatile defender had been added to the practice squad only 2 weeks ago, but his time with the Bills was short-lived. Buffalo's willingness to move on so quickly underscores just how fluid practice squad management can be in the NFL. Teams often cycle players in and out depending on immediate needs, injury updates, and long-term evaluations. For Reece 4, this could mean another opportunity elsewhere in the league, while for Buffalo, it was about addressing the more pressing concerns at linebacker and cornerback. Looking ahead, the Bills will continue to monitor the health of Milano and Williams, knowing that their availability, or lack thereof, could shape how the defense performs in the coming weeks. If Milano misses extended time, Buffalo would lose one of its best defenders, a linebacker with elite instincts, coverage ability, and leadership. That scenario would place even greater pressure on the likes of Terrell Bernard and the depth pieces behind him. Spector's return may soften that blow slightly, but replacing Milano outright is an impossible task. In the secondary, Kimber's re-addition reflects Buffalo's determination to leave no stone unturned in the search for answers. Injuries to rookies Strong and Hairston have robbed the team of developmental snaps, and while veterans provide short-term stability, the long-term picture remains uncertain. Kimber represents a flyer, someone who might not contribute immediately but could provide value with time, reps, and proper coaching. Ultimately, the Bills' moves on Tuesday were about shoring up a roster that has already taken significant hits. These were not headline-grabbing acquisitions, but they were necessary steps for a team determined to remain resilient in the face of adversity. Buffalo has built its identity on depth, preparation, and adaptability, and bringing back familiar faces like Baylon Spector and Jalen Kimber aligns with that philosophy. As the season progresses, fans will be watching closely to see whether these reinforcements can provide the stability needed to weather the storm. The AFC remains unforgiving, and every roster spot matters when the margin between winning and losing is often razor thin. For now, the Bills have chosen continuity and familiarity as their path forward, betting that the players they already know and trust will be the ones to help them survive the grind of the season. Thanks for watching and see you next time.